Hey, good evening, welcome. We are so very happy to have finished our well. Much disappointment and what we've come to describe as a leap of faith. A leap of faith is when you dive into a project because there is a great need and you don't really have the resources to finish it. But we managed to draw on all kinds of resources, and we've been able to complete that well. Now, it was it was not without its excitement, because it was the fourth attempt. At number 3, we'd almost given up. Well, we hadn't almost given up, because we couldn't really give up, because that community there had become very close to our hearts. We know all of the children there, because every time we arrive they seem to come from everywhere. In fact, I started to call it the little town or the little village of children, because mostly all that we see is children there, and they are incredible, because they don't just stand around, they help. So when materials like sand and gravel are dropped down at the road, they have to be transported up the hill and down the other side in order to be used on the well. The man who did the well seemed like he was a braggart, we would call it. In the UK we'd call him a braggart, and we wondered if he could possibly do what he said he could do. He boasted that he had dug successful 200 wells. He had his own jackhammer, which shows an extraordinary amount of initiative for what really essentially is a poor former farmer is what I would say. So he'd risen up from that. He had a large team of workers. Beth noticed that there were lots of different workers there, and at first we were concerned by that, but when she spoke to him and mentioned it to him, he said, yes, I like to spread the work out so that everybody has food on the table for their family, which really was always a great concern for us, trying to use local labour so that families have food on the table, and that's a big concern. It's a basic need, isn't it? A roof over your head and food on the table. That's a basic need. And of course, in among that is water. Now, here's an interesting thing. When we received the message that the well had been finished, this is number 4, we sent Rado down there, and Rado went. When he came back, he told us something very interesting. Black rock had been taken, what looked like black rock. It looked like great lumps of charcoal. It was a charcoal kind of rock that was being hammered out and brought up to the surface. And then through that we were able to go later and see the water actually coming in through the side of the bottom of the well. Now somebody asked, just to answer a couple of questions, somebody asked why so much water was taken out and thrown away. And the reason for that is that this is the method, is that when the well is dug, they dig down so far. Now, when they feel that they're getting close to water, they don't go any further. They then block up. So they use hollow block and they form the well. So that long shaft that you see going down is formed by hollow block which is rendered with cement, and it's crucial that they decide when to do that, because they don't want, looking at it on the bright side, they don't want a lot of water coming in when they're actually trying to block up. Well, in order to do that, when a lot of water is coming in, whatever the amount of water, they actually take that out and throw it away. Now, imagine how much digging has been going on. That water is actually is dirty water. So that's why you see so much water being brought up. Now, they have to keep the well dry by taking out more water, like by the barrel full, more water than can come in and fill the well up again. So it's a kind of a race against time, a calculated risk that they take. Have we taken enough water out? Can we start doing the blocking? Then they start doing the blocking and they block back up the way that they've come. Now, when they blocked so far, they then go back and they dig further. And the idea is that in digging further, they will actually reach water. And that's exactly what happened. They reached water. Now, then comes the emptying of the well again. So they keep the well emptied, and they do it the hard way by by filling buckets of water, hauling them up by the I think 5 gallon. That was what I see as a 5 gallon paint container. So they do that, and they take out 5 gallons at a time, and they do that the hard way. They've got a pulley which we have to find for that. We have to find a pulley as well and install that there. But the way that it's working at the moment is that, as you saw with the finish well video, the kids are going down there and they have their own rope, and they have their own canister on the end of that. They haul the water up, and then they fill their carry home containers. Right? Now, the concern that a lot of people had, and I have to address this because we have thought of it too, and that is that some people thought that the well, the wall of the well, the surround of the well, once it reaches ground level, was not high enough. Now, you really have to see how life in the Philippines is carried out, in order to be able to understand that the height of the wall is going to be a bone of contention no matter how broad. If you put it too high, the children will get a block and they'll stand on it in order to be able to put their container in to get water from the bottom of the well. The children will not suffer a higher wall than they can negotiate, and it's as simple as that. Is that a kid must have the, let me say, probably, although younger children do go down to get water and bring it back for the family, mostly it falls to the, let me say, 7 years old and above, and they go down there, and that wall is now at about waist level, maybe a little higher. You have the video, you can contradict me on that. Now, the reason that that's ideal in the Philippines is because the idea of danger, and especially relating to children, is completely different in the Philippines. I know that in America I actually saw one report of a woman who was jailed because she allowed her 2 children to walk unaccompanied 2 blocks. Now, I'm sure that you could research that and you could Google that and you could find that case and prove what I am actually saying is true. It's not that way in the Philippines. And in order to illustrate the point, I've got my glasses on here. In order to illustrate the point, I want to read out just a few of the things that I thought should be noted. All Filipino children fetch water. Now, the well that those particular children were fetching their water at was a hole in the ground with a load of stones set around the top of the hole. That was where they were going. When we went down there, one of the kids actually jumped into the well and jumped out again. These are kids who are totally different to Western kids because they're brought up differently. Now, the kids go down there unaccompanied by adults and they fetch water, and that's what they were doing. The reason that we replaced that well was because that well used to get polluted by the creek, which was only a couple of yards away. And when the creek flooded in heavy rains, it overflowed and it polluted the well. So, that particular well, no wall at all. Now, in the Philippines, when you're driving along, if we're going, say, to Atafi or we're going to Talabong, if we're going at that particular time when kids are going to school, when they're going home for lunch, yes, here children go home for lunch. They walk home, have their lunch and come back. Or maybe they can afford to have a little meal based at one of the tiny sari-sari stores that's usually by every school. 6-year-old children, 6 years old, walk to school, sometimes as far as 2 miles, unaccompanied. And there will be a brother and 2 sisters and a brother, it doesn't matter which. They walk to school alone, without any adult in sight. This is not along a country road like you've seen Beth and I walking along with the dogs and not a single person in sight. This is the national highway, and there they are, and they walk along the side of the road, and believe it or not, if you're American, they are not constantly running out into the road and getting killed or injured. They know better, and they learn. They learn from the only slightly older children how to stay alive. Timeo, when I first started to help at the church, at Timeo's church, what prompted me to offer my truck, our truck, and in fact go and pick the kids up myself, what prompted me was the fact that I saw Timeo picking up the 6 children of one family on his bike in one go. 6 children on his bike at one go. No helmets, nothing. Just pick the kids up and get them to church and take them home. Now I took over that job. In no time at all, my little truck, the little red then, was carrying as many as 10, 15 children to get them to church. Now, totally unheard of. In America, they don't even allow anyone to ride in the back of a pickup truck now, is my recollection. Certainly. So all of the things that Americans used to take for granted, like pickup, tailgate, they used to call them tailgate parties. No more. Now, you probably will just say this is not true, and I won't blame you. But somewhere in our albums, we have photographs of anywhere from 10 to 15 children on a tricycle going home from school or going to school. 15 kids is common. It's common because no tricycle driver will refuse a kid to get to school. Quite apart from the fact that a sense of responsibility and duty means that they want the kid to go to school. I guess that's there as well. But mainly, they'll get their 10 pesos. So, 15 times 10, and they probably may even take some on for nothing. The poor kids. Now, here's something that would probably make you lose your lunch if you had to see it. And that is, children here, when a motorcycle is bought by a family and they struggle to do that, they'll buy a motorcycle. The motorcycle becomes the family transport, and it carries the wife, himself, so the driver, the wife, and however many children they have, because that's their transport. So it's very, very common to see, and this is why Filipinos are natural motorcycle riders, okay? Because from the earliest age, if you're a parent, you'll remember that time when the toddler, before it was actually a toddler, the baby becomes able to sit up and to sit and to hold things. Remember that? They fall over, but they're in a safe place, so it doesn't matter. And it's part of growing up. That same toddler here will sit on the gas tank of the truck, and there's usually the handlebars go up like this, and connecting the two tall bits, like the antlers of the horns, is a stabilizing bar. And tiny children, just able to sit up and support their own weight and their own head, and they're not falling over like this, they sit on the gas tank in front of the father and they hold the stabilizer bar. An amazing thing to see, and something that teaches you very quickly why kids learn to ride a motorcycle at very, very early ages. Believe it or not, we have seen 7 years old riding a motorcycle, and in some cases, if it's a single parent family, they will be taking the mother to work. It may be that there is a father, but he may be an OFW, an overseas Filipino worker, and sends the money so they can afford a bike, on finance of course, but they can't get to work. The child, the boy, will learn fast. Without any lessons, he will learn. And this is, sadly, the downside of that is that while they learn very fast and are skillful with bikes, they are not taught any road sense. And that's why a lot of motorcycle accidents happen in the Philippines, because compared to the heavily tutored riders in the West, I mean, for instance, I remember I didn't ride a bike in America, but I remember my friend Kathy, she went and she took lessons. Now, in order to get the first license, you have to go along and you have to attend an organized course, an accredited course for learning how to ride a motorcycle. And you go there and they learn on a particular, I think, was it a Bewley, something like that, a Bueller, and they learn on these motorcycles which are about 100 or 150 cc, and they learn good motoring road sense. They learn that, and they don't get their license until they can demonstrate that they have that road sense training. It's not like that here. And a 6 or 7 year old, 8 year old can get on a bike, especially if they're in a hilltop community, and they can drive. If they can make that bike go and stop, that's as much license as some of them have. But I am talking about the province. We are out in hundreds of square miles of what seems like totally empty mountains. And we showed many videos on this. So what regulation is there now? Very little here. So I hope this addresses the main concern, which was the height of the well and why kids are not, they're just not as rigidly disciplined here. And because of that, they learn to be much more self-disciplined in terms of safety. And it's a fact. So thanks for looking in. Don't forget to like if you have enjoyed it, and do like, and if you can find a way to make a comment on our Facebook page, do that too. We love to hear your comments. It's not our fault that our comments are still disabled. So bye for now.